Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football and welcome back to the Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel. We also get joined by the coach, our coach, former high school football coach at Vernon, Capel, Brownwood, Rotan, Belton. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, coached there as well, and was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head football coaches. And now you can catch his work at ShipleyRanches.com. It's our coach, Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Doing great. Good little spring weather happening out here in West Texas today.
Yeah, it's beautiful down here in Austin too, man. It's beautiful weather. CJ, I know you got the skyline in the background, so I know you're trying to present to the people that you're optimistic about the future of things, but you are our resident Mavs fan, and the biggest story in sports is them trading away the franchise. How you taking it? How you dealing with it? I think everybody is still pretty much flabbergasted by the news. Yeah, there you go. See, everybody feels for you, brother.
If I didn't have about a 10-story drop right next to me, this hat would be gone. I mean, I have no clue. It's one of the most head-scratching moves in maybe professional sports history. I felt like that since the move was made. I have no clue. So Tex-Mex Horn, I don't know what the Mavs are thinking this year. Maybe it sounds great on paper, but you had 15 years of competitive basketball and just hope really lined up, and it's gone. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. But, yeah, I couldn't believe it. Unbelievable.
And, yeah, not only to trade them is one thing. Then to trade them to the Lakers is another thing. And so they've done it again to get a generational talent so they can go another decade plus the Lakers contending for championships. Yeah, that's stuff. Obviously, that's not what we're talking about. But I know the Mavs fans, all you guys out there, I know y'all are hurting. So we hurt with you a little bit, but let's get right to it. Big news on the 40 acres. Lots of news, of course. We'll get to some mock drafts that are out there. Reputable ones. Lance Zerline has his latest mock draft, so we'll get to that coming up a little bit later on. Jeff Howe is going to join us a little bit later on in the show, kind of second half of the show, talk some Texas football. We'll also get into Ohio State. Once again, the opponent number one for the Longhorns in the 2025 schedule. The exodus of talent at the coaching level and in that locker room continues. So we'll talk about the latest exit or departure for the Ohio State Buckeyes after their championship run. But the big news and good news for the Longhorns that, speaking of Dallas and DFW, the Dallas Cowboys did decide on a running back hire, and it is not Tashard Choice. It looks like Tashard Choice will be staying put. Clarence Hill actually recently, he recently tweeted out after interviewing with the Cowboys, running backs coach Tashard Choice appears to be staying with the Longhorns with a big raise in excess of $800,000. He was also being courted by the Raiders and the Saints, according to Clarence Hill of DLLS. I'll say that he's the Cowboys writer since 1997. I love Chill. He does great work. So he's saying that Tashard Choice is staying put. He's going to get a big raise as a result of it. And the Cowboys are going to hire, I believe, Derek Foster as their running backs coach. But good news for the Longhorns, Coach. I'll throw it to you first because you got obviously a lot of relationships there. Coach Choice staying with the Longhorns. What does that mean in terms of the overall impact on talent acquisition, but also talent development?
Well, there's a lot of great running back coaches that can do a great job at the NFL, but there's very few that can coach as well as he does, that can develop as well as he does, but that can recruit at the level that he recruits at. And to me, that's the thing that makes him worth the money to stay in Austin because, apparently Jerry didn't want to let go of the money that Texas was willing to let go of to keep him. And it's just a great thing. Once again, it's just this continuity of the big hitters on this staff continue to encourage us all about the future of this program because they see what's coming.
Yep. CJ, obviously you reported on this story earlier, but what are your thoughts to Tashard Choice staying put with the Longhorns after being considered by multiple NFL teams, not only for the Cowboys, but Clarence Hill reports other teams were interested in Tashard Choice. Won't be the last time because he has those NFL ties and he's well respected.
Right.
But the Longhorns able to keep one of the top coaches in the industry right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge for Texas. I mean, on top of just being able to recruit, a really solid tandem of running backs over the last 3 cycles. I mean, this is a guy Texas deploys for all their big guys, right? The Tyler Atkinsons of the world. Last year is Michael Fasusi, and he's out to go see Nick Brooks, right? He'll take the trips out to Florida at IMG Academy to go see Jamie French. There's all sorts of other uses beyond just the running back room that Tashard Choice is used for in Texas recruiting. And obviously, Texas has benefited already, right? Back-to-back top 3 classes followed up by a number 1 recruiting class. So it's big in that sense as well. And you just have to look at, Trey Wisner in terms of development to become a 1,000-yard guy really after not seeing the football more than a handful amount of times in 2023. I mean, that's a really important thing. So I'm really excited for Texas and the running back stable. Of course, now you get to add James Simon and Ricky Stewart to what you hope to be an improved room going into 2025. But Choice, again, a guy that helps all over the place, all over the map, all over the recruiting position board. It's a big win for Steve Sarkisian. And, for the Cowboys, it just kind of falls into that kind of questionable decision-making that they've had over the last, month and a half. So Texas, big move there. And, again, I think that last line in that tweet that I had is one of my biggest takeaways. Texas, if Jaden Blue gets drafted this upcoming April, you have 5 running backs selected over the last 3 NFL drafts. I don't know how many teams can boast that, but I can't imagine that list is very long. So another feather in the cap, if you will, for Sark Choice in this Texas program.
Yeah, and to end up having back-to-back drafts with multiple running backs that you've coached and developed, drafted, which is a position that is, we've talked about it, is being devalued at the NFL level. And yet Coach Choice, some of the running backs he's coached have been some of the highest drafted running backs recently in the NFL draft too. So, it says a lot. My man CV says Tashard Choice is the best running back coach in college football and the NFL. That is, honestly, I'm sure he's in a discussion. Obviously, he's in a discussion for that. Continue. I don't know how many running back coaches are making what he's making. Or what he will be, right? I mean, I don't know. That's a lot of cash, coach, for just an assistant coach. Coach, I mean, your coordinator kind of making that kind of cash. He's going to be getting $800,000. Running back coaches in the league don't make that. They don't make that.
No.
Right?
No, they don't. And the great thing about being a college football coach, you make that much money, you don't have any time to spend it. I mean, you got a dealer car from Colbert or whatever, you got to buy your wife, nice car. You got, you spend money on a house. Other than that, you got about 3 weeks off. You can go on a killer vacation, but it's not like he's going to spend it. He's going to have that money put back because those guys get little time off to go out and spend that big coin they're making.
It's a great point, though. That's why you get paid the big bucks, because now with NIL and transfer portal, there's a lot on the plate of coaches at the college level, period. And NFL, that's a lot of the speculation about Tashard Choice was that if he did take the NFL job, that it would be for less, pay than at Texas. And if the Cowboys, I don't even know if it's as much job security either, but it would be less of a burden, if you will. Because you ain't got to worry about recruiting. You ain't got to worry about NIL, transfer portal. The NFL is all about, can you develop talent? And we know he can do that. We know he can coach up talent.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But I think he has, as Coach talked about, you talked about it, he's a great recruiter because he's got this, this energy about him. He's got a vibe that young people respond to. So it makes him a rainmaker in recruiting. And I think he actually enjoys it. And you gotta enjoy recruiting, right, Coach? Because that's a full-time job. Aside from coaching, recruiting is just a full-time job. So you gotta love it.
There's no doubt.
I mean, you gotta imagine that these guys are happy that it's the dead period, right, Coach? I mean, you finally, for about a week or 2, 3 weeks, you kick your feet up just a little bit, and then visits, officials, spring ball. It just never ends.
Never.
Give that man a raise, Joshua says. I like Jack says, when running backs become cool again, maybe it will be because of Coach Choice's players. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, got Bijan in there, got Rojo. I mean, he's got some. Whenever Jonathan Brooks gets healthy, and he can play again, he'll have a few in the league. Ain't no doubt about that. Really happy for Coach. Also, congratulations to Coach Choice. He has a new member of the family. I have a new daughter. He has a daughter as well. So congrats to Coach Choice. It's a good year for Coach Choice, man. He got a raise already. Got a new baby coach and gets another raise. Life is good for Coach Choice. His 2025 starting now as good as it. Maybe Kendrick Lamar had a better 2025 to start.
His life's doing better. His sleep is not doing better, as you can attest to.
That is true. I get that. No doubt about that. Congrats to Coach Choice. But I will say that connection that Coach Choice has, being from Georgia, and him being able to tap into Georgia and Atlanta. We've talked about what a mecca it has become for recruiting. As a matter of fact, they're hiring support staff coach and bringing on new coaches. So I actually want to get your thoughts about this, because we talked about it a little bit, I believe, last show, because that's when they hired the Cowboy back, Jason McIndoe. Remember the former Cowboy back coach for Oklahoma State? Well, now the report is they're hiring basically an outside linebackers coach, or assistant outside linebackers coach, Alan Clark, I believe is his name, from Ohio State, by the way, from Ohio State. And I believe he's gonna basically, because PK, I believe, is kind of the outside linebackers coach. He's going to be an assistant outside linebackers coach, and help. Apparently, his specialty is pass. Obviously training guys in terms of their pass rushing ability, and he has, I believe, connections in like Louisiana. I think he's from originally like Louisiana. That's where his roots are. That's another place where we know Texas wants to tap into in terms of recruiting and connections. And Bobby mentioned, with all the different rules now in terms of what coaches can coach and what coaches can recruit, they've expanded a lot of that too. So the connections they have this guy, Josh, CJ, you can speak on this. Thank you very much there, Matthew. Alan Clark. So he's helping with, obviously, the defense. But they hired somebody also in their front office, if you want to call it that. They hired Josh Dunson recently, who formerly has ties at Georgia Tech, so that Atlanta area that we were talking about. And I think that Georgia area, that Georgia in general, that's where he's from and his background. So a lot of these guys they're bringing in, of course, they are qualified, but they also have connections in some of the most fertile recruiting grounds in the country. I think that's also got to be part of the bigger plan, the macro.
Right. Yeah, I have to imagine so. And look, it's been a common theme for Texas dating back to really 2 years ago, right? When Texas started to make that push towards Georgia, towards Florida, get more invested in the Alabamas, the Mississippis, the Tennessees of the world. Louisiana, Texas has always kind of had a little bit of a footprint there. Now, yes. Will that improve now with some of these additional coaches on the staff? I would assume so. But look, it was Terry Joseph who has the connections down to the boot previously. Now you add another coach on the staff who has ties to Louisiana, and that's certainly help you with guys like Jabari Mack, who I just went down and saw last week. Texas offered a 2026 6'3" cornerback as well last week. So they're getting more involved in all of these deep South, highly populated states. Rod, you got all the numbers in terms of which areas produce big-time NFL guys, and Texas is starting to become more and more known in that area. Obviously, Georgia going to be one of the focal points moving forward. It's going to be really interesting to see if this tips Texas over the edge on a few guys, because, look, you just went in there and landed Justice Terry. That otherwise would not have been, accomplished over the last 10, 15 years. That kid is going to Alabama or that kid is going to Georgia. There was no ifs, ands, buts, or second thoughts about that decision at all over the last decade and a half. And now Texas is starting to say, okay, we're here to play some big boy ball. Y'all have kind of created the blueprint of how to establish these title contending teams on a year in, year out basis, but we feel pretty good about what we got. We just need the extra pieces on the D line. And now we're going to come, kind of make plant our own flag, if that makes sense. So I'm eager to see how it changes for Texas because in-state, California, Florida, you always have those guys. But we've also seen Texas go up to North Carolina pretty often this cycle specifically. DMV, the Northeast. That national brand, Rod and Coach, we've talked about it. When Texas starts winning at DKR, I don't know how you negatively recruit the program, and they're taking advantage of it at the moment.
Yeah, they should. This is the time to do it too, especially with the profile that you're about to have. And Texas doesn't need a bigger profile because of the brand, but Arch Manning with the brand, the combination of the two, the Manning brand and the University of Texas, the hype is about to be something maybe unprecedented that we haven't seen in a long time. You definitely can cash in on that if you're Texas. All right, we see the questions. We'll get to some of those questions. I promise you here in just a second. But first, before we continue, let's thank our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery really quickly before we move on. Our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, folks, and they've won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. It's fantastic. My wife loves it. Her mom loves it. My mom actually loves it too because we got a chance to enjoy it over the holidays. It's not only a great place for tasting their premium wines, and they produce some of the best wines out there. Their selection is great. They have it at your local Specs, but they also have a display at your local Central Market. I saw it there as well. So the good word is getting out about our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. But also it's a gorgeous venue available for wine tastings and barbecues every single weekend. Perfect for a date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. So think about it and give them, actually look them up at flatcreekestate.com. That's flatcreekestate.com. You can find out more details there. And also you can check out their wine selection there, which is a fantastic wine selection at flatcreekestate.com. All right, let's get to a couple of the questions, and then we'll actually get to a couple of other topics that I want to ask Coach and CJ about. But how about this one from David Keith Williams for you, CJ? He said, as much as I would love Texas to get Tristan Keys and Caden Dixon Wyatt from out of state, I hope Texas also gets Caden Finley and Boobie Feaster from Texas. Unfortunately, there are signs pointing towards Notre Dame for Finley. What is your view about Finley's recruitment?
Yeah, it's going to be one that's going to be interesting. Obviously, does he want to follow in father's footsteps? As that is obviously Jermichael Finley. So does he want to come, follow up? Does he want to go kind of, blaze his own path, do his own thing? We've seen that time or two. Texas had to actually reconvince Colton Vosick to follow Dad's footsteps, right? He originally was committed to Oklahoma. So it's one of those things where, it changes kid to kid, changes father to son, whatever the instance is. We'll see. Texas likes Caden Finley. I think that his development took a turn in the right direction for him about a year ago, and now you see him as a true legit wide receiver rather than a guy who might grow into being a tight end. But look, I don't know if you've seen the tape of a Tristan Keys or Caden Dixon Wyatt in the conversation, but a Tristan Keys might be the overall number one wide receiver in the entire country. I don't think you turn him down for an in-state guy. I don't think you turn him down for anybody in the country if he says, I want to go play for Steve Sarkisian in Texas football. That's just the level of athlete that he is, and that's kind of where Texas is starting to recruit at the wide receiver spot, right? Texas has done that at quarterback. Quinn Ewers out of the portal, you get Arch Manning. Now you can go pick whoever you want at the quarterback spot given the year. Wide receiver, you're about to put 5 guys in the league in 2 years. And you've also just landed 2 back-to-back 5-star guys in each class, right? Ryan Wingo. We talked about Jamie French, Kelly Clockett. This is starting to become a hub for wide receivers. And, of course, you can always point to development. DeAndre Moore. What does a Parker Livingstone look like this year? What does an Aaron Butler contribute this year? That's going to be really interesting because you'll have the best of both worlds. High-end profile guys with the 5 stars by their name, but also development for some of these guys who have got on the field and stayed on the field. It's exactly what Ohio State's been doing with their wide receivers for the last decade with Brian Hartline, who, Rod, we'll talk about him coming up here in a minute. But if you can get that type of production and that type of really position factory going, you'll have really the pick of the litter for whoever you want on a given cycle. Texas is getting kind of close to that now.
Yeah, the Matthew Golden story, honestly, is as good as any right now in terms of showing what, what Texas can do in terms of talent development. Because, guys, all the mock drafts have Matthew Golden as like the second or third wide receiver being taken in this draft. And we all love Matthew Golden. And I don't think any of us saw that. Now, he did end the season as one of the hottest receivers in the country. And you can make the argument he increased his draft stock toward the end of the season as much, if not more, than any player in the country. But I didn't see them regarding him as, some say, number one receiver on the board, number two receiver. Yeah. That, coach, that's really impressive. Like, I didn't see that. I'm happy for him, but that does show you, if you come to Texas, as CJ is talking about, something that you can sell to recruits that, hey, look at the draft value of these guys once they come to Texas at the wide receiver position.
No, Coach.
Oh, Coach, you're muted.
That's one year.
Yeah.
Sorry, I muted myself during the Flat Creek commercial. Yeah, just 1 year of development, and look at that. But I told you guys, I'm not going to belabor the point, but Jackson pointed him out during training camp as the guy. Mm-hmm. He's the best guy out there, I promise you. Yeah. And I didn't see it then, but he saw it. He was right.
Well, they know something about, speaking of, we were just talking about Finley here, Caden Finley, obviously legacy, and son of Jermichael Finley. You know something on both sides, Coach, about recruiting legacies, and also, on the other side of it, as a coach and as someone who was a part of some of those recruiting staffs, recruiting players who had legacies, they were a part of legacies at Texas. Is it treated differently from either side? Do you remember?
It's really difficult. Some of the recruiting. In fact, I was at UT when Jermichael brought his son down and his whole youth football team. Oh, wow. I don't even remember what year it was. I don't know if it would have been 2013 or if it would have been more like 15 or 16. I can't remember for sure when it was, but anyway, he brought his whole team in there. But we've seen through the Brockmeyers that it can be a challenging and touchy thing. If you don't feel like that they're giving your legacy son as much love or whatever as you should, then it's real easy for those people to, take their toys and go home, because they're getting, he's not getting the love that they thought that he should get. And so I think, if you just have to handle it carefully. If it's somebody that you really like, I think in the past, Texas could have been guilty of, from the things that I've heard, maybe taking guys like that for granted, and just think that they're just going to come. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. But it can be a touchy thing. And I don't know that, the Brockermeyer name has forever been changed in a lot of our minds because of that, in spite of the father being one of the greatest offensive linemen ever play for the University of Texas. And I'm sure wanted his kids to come too, but it just, I don't know if it wasn't handled right or if they weren't the level that the, UT was looking for. I don't know, but it can be really touchy. Yeah. And in fact, I always like, man, it's tough. It really is.
And no, did Jackson consider seriously consider anybody else? I mean, absolutely
really?
Not. Okay. No,
really?
Okay. Yeah.
No, so Case McCoy was a year older than Jackson. So Case had already gone. So they'd already had this planned out when they were like,
all right. Yeah, okay. This is okay. I got you. Yeah.
And so no, they could have offered Jackson the very last day and never brought him in on an official visit. He was going to sign. So there wasn't much recruiting for Jackson in any direction because everybody that contacted him, he told them, thank you so much. I'm flattered, but don't waste your time.
There you go. All right. I believe we got a special guest with us. I'm sorry I didn't get to him earlier. We left him waiting a little too long. Usually on Mondays, we're joined by my former teammate, lifetime Longhorns Stevie Lee. Boom. And he joins us courtesy of our good friends at Hardgrove Roofing. That's right, Hardgrove Roofing, with offices all over Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. Actually started in the great state of Louisiana. My man Steve Lee knows a little something about that. Great things from the state of Louisiana. But so our friends at Hardgrove Roofing as well. Hardgroveroofing.com. Know who's on your roof with our friends at Hardgrove Roofing. Give them a call today for a free roof inspection. That's right, folks. Free 99. You won't get a better price than that. 512-645-3202. Know who's on your roof with our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. Stevie, what's up, brother? How you doing?
What's happening, man? How are y'all?
Oh, doing great, man. Doing great. Sorry I left you on a little bit too long. Didn't really.
No, you good.
Yeah, I know. I know you've been busy too, so I appreciate you joining us here on the show. Speaking of Louisiana, I'm glad we got you on because we were talking about these fertile recruiting grounds around the country now, and Texas tapping into them. And CJ mentioned, like, hey, man, Texas been in Louisiana for a while, but they're trying now to get more market share in Louisiana. Why not? I mean, it's a neighboring state. It's right there. And it's had so much talent for so long. You are a primary example of it, all right? So even Mac knew, but Mac wasn't trying to invade Louisiana to a certain extent. He like Sark, he's going to be a little bit more, invasive when it comes to the state of Louisiana. And obviously Arch Manning's a big part of that too. But what are your thoughts? Because I mean, that whether you're talking about New Orleans and honestly Baton Rouge has recently surpassed New Orleans in terms of producing NFL products. It's right up there as well. Talk about Louisiana, man, and how the little pockets of Louisiana with so much talent. You know all about Shreveport, part of it too. Shout out. Hey, so I trying to forget about that. But it's been that way for a while. But now it seems like now it's even richer and deeper in terms of the talent pool.
It is. Texas, high school football in Louisiana changed a little bit when they tried to split up the private schools and the public schools. Yeah. So when I played, Chris, you remember you got me, Phillip, and Cole right here, and you remember Chase Pittman too.
Oh yeah.
And then we had a kicker that came out of Evangel, and then Major Applewhite being from Baton Rouge, Greg Brown being from Baton Rouge, Christmas. Defensive tackle. Christmas was from Baton Rouge, I believe. Shiro Davis from Shreveport.
Yeah.
So we had some really good talent to come out of Louisiana. And
Malcolm Roach.
Yeah. And I'm sure I'm missing some more, man. But it started. We had a little bit of a downfall of the talent that came out of Louisiana, but now it's coming right back. It's just some really good high school football being playing in Shreveport still. Then you go into Monroe, and then you go all the way down. If you go anywhere south of I-10 in Louisiana, you're gonna get some good high school football. One name that y'all brought up was Booby Feaster, man. I got a really funny coincidental story with Booby Feaster, right? My childhood home that I grew up in, my parents, they've since moved, but how old is Booby? What, 17, maybe 16 years? 16 years ago. Booby Feaster's mom water broke and had to run next door to my mom's house. And my mom had to rush her to the hospital to have Booby Feaster, man.
Wow.
Small world, dude. It's just absolutely 100%.
That's crazy.
100% small world, dude. And so I tell my mom, I was like, there's this kid out of this coach. You're muted, coach.
How old were you in all this?
Oh, no, I was here in college.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. Didn't go home for spring break or nothing?
No, there you go. No, I was here in college. So, so I tell my mom, I was like, is this the Feasters that used to live next door? Because I knew they had moved to DeSoto. And she was like, oh, yeah, that is him. She said she talked to his mom all the time. And I tell her that, man, he's a number one recruit coming out of Texas. I mean, coming out of high school and things like that. So she calls his mom. And she's like, yeah, and I got a little bit of inside lean on trying to recruit him to come to Texas, man. So it's a very small world, dude. My mom and dad known that kid for a long time, and I've talked to his dad about real estate and things like that. So friend of the family. Hope he becomes a Longhorn, because when you become a Longhorn, you know you're Longhorns for life. With all my friends right here, you know.
Wow, that is a hell of a story. That's a great story. Now I gotta say, now you might get a call, Stevie. Now you didn't let that out the bag. You might get a call from somebody like
Stevie. Let's get Hargrove with a little NIL heading back to Louisiana, baby.
Listen, hey, we probably should do that, man. I don't know if Hargrove can afford Booby Feaster right now, though.
No, hey, but it's a great advertisement. I mean, you got a booby on your roof. I mean, that's pretty good.
There you go. Boom, Coach. Bam. There you go. See? Natural marketing mind. There you go, Coach.
Yeah.
Oh, man. No, but that's interesting because that is the case, though. A lot of Texas, those families, a lot of them have those Louisiana roots, too. They're not only the town of Louisiana, but my mom and dad are from Louisiana.
I was gonna say, man, you keep talking about Louisiana. You got the Louisiana roots too, man.
Oh yeah, I'm deep. My people. That's where all my people's at. That's where 80% of my people's at. They in Louisiana. Yep. That's why I know there's a lot of talent down there. Because Robbie was almost down there. Almost. Now, Steve, let me ask you about something. Just obviously looking ahead here. And we got the spring game going ahead. How do you feel? Is there anything right now that early on got you worried about with this team?
I think I'm a little worried of us filling in the defensive tackle spots.
Look at your spot
that are going to be vacated. I feel good about the linebackers. We're losing a Thorpe Award winner on the defense, right? And so just a little bit of concern of who's going to fill those spots, but we got so much talent, man. And in Torrey Becton, I trust, right? Like, he gets these kids right, man. He get a good off season with these kids, and they are ready to go. So, he was the strength and conditioning coach of the year last year. Should have got it the year before.
I didn't know. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. If you can make Tavondre Sweat that big and run the way he can, you should be on the Mount Rushmores of strength and conditioning coaches, right? So
that's real.
But yeah, I think that we do have good base talent, but I think that just like back in the day, I'm gonna go back to my hometown. Not my home state is Louisiana. LSU, they used to develop players instead of like the big 5-star and 4-star. They used to have a program that developed their players up with their strength and conditioning program. So I think that we're getting really good recruits at a baseline, but we're also developing them into better athletes once they get here.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got all sorts of high ceilings that haven't been tapped. I think that's one of the more interesting part about recruiting that area. I was just down there. I made the trip back down through I-10 all the way through New Orleans, Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long drive. Look, once you get through Baton Rouge, there's a while where you don't see a thing.
You need to stop in New Iberia and go to the Tabasco farm, and that's your break. Go.
Wow.
Well, instead, I made the stop at Destrehan High School, which has produced Ed Reed, Justin Jefferson. Now, Jabari Mack looking to become another guy that's highly sought after. Texas was on him. But, their coach over there, Coach Scott, he was telling me, we play Edna Carr every year for a spring game. And it becomes a big, just a total, block party, essentially. They come down or we go to them. There's 50-plus college coaches every single year on the sideline. The players play. Fans in the stands have a good time, and then it's just a cookout, right? It turns into just a community event where everybody can just kind of come in, hang out, and spend, a night in the spring playing football and celebrating being amongst one another. So that was really cool, and I think I'm going to plan my next trip through Louisiana around that, because why not? But that's cool. I didn't realize just how competitive yet still communal that whole area is when it comes to developing high school relationships, et cetera. It was really neat.
I didn't know that. That is really cool. That's a great nice football culture. Talk about the Texas football culture, Friday night lights and that kind of stuff. That is really cool.
Wouldn't that be great if Texas would allow spring games to be like a scrimmage? You know, you pick an opponent, bring in, and of course, I guess it be difficult to decide where you're going to play it. You know, get a home spring game every other year, but it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you can do a home and home and just call it a jamboree. We used to do jamborees back in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
It was Pop Warner. The equivalent of Pop Warner was SPAR, Shreveport Parks and Recreation. And so we would have a jamboree. We actually would get like 4 teams together, and you play one half against one team and the second half against another team. And but it was just like it was a big cookout, just like that, CJ. So when you were telling me about that, it felt like Pop Warner that I used to do back in the day.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, but who knows? Maybe it gets adopted a little bit more down here in Texas, to Coach's point. But really, something I'm looking forward to going back to New Orleans for later in the spring. But Stevie, I know that they got the boys working. Winter conditioning just started up. We talked about it last year, how bodies transform, how guys come in looking like a kid they eventually grow out of in about 2 or 3 months. You know, Colin Simmons being one of those guys who came in around 225. By spring practice, he's 245. You're sitting there saying, "Whoo, how did he get to that?" Talk about it for a defensive line perspective, where you're a big body coming in, but it might not be a good big body, or you just got to refine some habits off the field, whatever it might be. Talk about that process for you, and then also how difficult it might be for some of these early enrollees to get that body right before spring football comes running around. Absolutely, man. So when I got here, I believe I weighed in at 288 pounds, 6'5", 288. They wanted to put a little meat on me, so I bulked up. By spring ball, I think I was at 305, and that's where they wanted me to stay at. And mind you, I got to Austin January 9th, 2000. Spring ball was February, like mid-February, or was it? When was it, Rod? Oh, is that early in the spring semester?
Yeah, it was like early. What, we started spring like early March or something. Like
early
that.
March or late February.
Matt was split it up when he was split up spring.
Exactly.
First part of spring break, he split it up. Yeah. So it was a month and a half. I put on 15 pounds. You know what I'm saying? So over 15 pounds. So when I got here, it was early morning rising for running, and your running groups, a big man group, and the DB group, or the little people group like Rod, and then we had weights, man. And so that's all we did was just go to school, eat, and lift weights, man. And so we had a plan. Now, what these kids are going through nowadays, like they have, a bigger and better beefed up nutrition plan. Right. Yeah. So they have nutritionists on staff. There's one lady that was walking around there. I went to a spring practice. She just had a fanny pack full of snacks on her, but healthy snacks to get these kids, something to eat before they go out to practice. Right. So
DeAndre Coburn.
Yeah.
Snacks. He'd be all over that, wouldn't he?
Yeah. So it's more science in it back than it was when we were back there. So when these kids will come in and they are huge, and like you said, CJ, sometimes they're not good huge, but give them a month or two and they start to V out a little bit. You know what I mean? The wide shoulders, little waist, and start to V out and become actual Texas football players. Yeah.
You can still, sometimes they have their like teenage body still, and then you see him like after the spring, you're like, oh, he's got his grown man body. It is like a grown man out there.
In fact, I went home after spring ball, and my mom, dad, and some other friends was like, "You are shaping up right now. Like my face had gotten skinny, but I had put on weight.
Yeah, muscle.
I put on the right weight. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I didn't know it because I was in it. You know what I mean? So.
I remember that, Stevie. Hey, I remember Stevie Lee in his prime, baby. I remember Stevie Lee in his prime. I saw that Stevie Lee, man. All right, I saw that. Yeah.
I like to tell my girls that they make fun of me because I'm just old dad now. And I was like, you know what? back in the day, I paid for my college because I could run sideline to sideline. Remember
Come
that?
on now. Yeah. World-class athlete. Exactly.
World-class athlete.
Don't forget. All right, Stevie. Thank you, man, for joining us. I won't keep you too long. We really appreciate it. We know you got a lot of obligations, family, professional. You take the time with us, and we appreciate it very much.
No, I really appreciate y'all. I'm sorry I missed the last 2 Mondays. I was just out working, but I love coming on with y'all. Love interacting with the people in the comments, man. So hook them. Remember Hargrove. Let us know if we can help you guys out. Know who's on your roof.
Nice. Love it. Thanks, Stevie. Appreciate it.
Boobies.
All right, that is Stevie Lee, lifetime logo Stevie Lee, and my former teammate Stevie Lee, courtesy of our good friends at Hardgrove Roofing, hardgroveroofing.com. Know who's on your roof at Hardgrove Roofing right now, offering a free roof inspection, courtesy of Hardgrove Roofing. All you gotta do is reach out to them, 512-645-3202. Offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas as well. All right, so thanks to Stevie Lee. How about that? That is it, Booby Feaster? They call it. Is it Booby or Bob? What is it? Booby. Booby Feaster. Wow. How do we? Did you know that connection?
World.
How do we know about that connection?
I did not.
Man? We got to tap into that now. I mean,
that's fascinating. Yeah.
CJ, I know you got connections, Coach. You got more connections than any of us. Y'all need to send that to the right people and let them know Stevie got the inside scoop on Booby Feaster, man. He's
a baller, Rod.
That's crazy.
Baller.
Is he baller like that? I mean, like a must-have?
Like 10.6, probably run 10.5 this year. You know, I believe in 7th grade he ran and currently holds or used to hold a national record for the 100-meter. 11.4, I believe, is what he ran in 7th grade. Okay. So kid can run. I was actually at his first ever high school game against Allen. And you could tell when he stepped on the field, there was a different level of energy with his get off, with his release, with some of his cuts. I mean, just a fast kid. So it'll be really interesting, obviously, for those physically demanding positions, wide receiver being one of those where you'd like to have the top end speed to move up a classification. We'll see how he's able to physically develop before he gets to college. But right now, I mean, I don't think there's anything that I see in terms of his development on the field that I say, okay, that 1 year is going to significantly stall his progression, which is very important. He did LL, he did reclassify to 2026. So that's why we're talking about him in the same breath of a Caden Finley or, some of these big time 2026 prospects. It'll be interesting to see how the wide receiver board kind of shakes out this year for the Longhorns.
Wow. All right. Good stuff, man. Stevie dropping just nuggets on the show today. How about that one? All right. Somebody else who drops some nuggets on the show anytime that he's on is Jeff Howe, the latest member of the Owen, Texas, newest member as well of the Owen, Texas football family. So we appreciate Jeff Howe joining us. Jeff, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm great. I got a great idea for Coach Shipley. I think he'll dig this. So
do it. Let's do
it. They do the jamborees in Louisiana. They do them in Florida too for spring ball. Coach, I'm thinking what you could use the spring jamboree in Texas for, like old school rivalries that don't play anymore because school sizes might have changed. Like I know if I could tell you, hey, Coach, Burnett and Marble Falls are going to play, at the end of the school year, close to May. Well, that's great because that's two towns that used to play each other all the time, don't really anymore. So I'd like to see it used for those games, teams that you otherwise wouldn't play. It doesn't count for anything to say, hey, let's go out here and play get us in 100 plays, 120 players or whatever, then go call it a day. So I dig that idea. I wonder if I've never heard anybody, Coach, in all the years I've gone to coaching school, never heard anybody from the UIL, never heard anybody from the THSCA bring that up as a possibility, but I may run that up the flagpole this year, see what kind of traction it gets.
That'd be good. There's been I don't know if they do them anymore, but I used to always get calls to do a 3-way scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, you get to go work against 2 different teams instead of one team. But I never really wanted to do that. I think it's we can do that for sure. But I think it would be fun. I mean, just if nothing else, go to an area where there's lots of room for parking. And just have each community have their own tailgate area with barbecue pits and all the stuff going on, and just make it a party.
Yeah, I know for Rod, as long as you've got those stadium nachos, Rod B will be there.
High school, there's nothing better than high school football nachos, man. They're so good. I know the cheese is cheap. Every time I go, I gotta get it.
Would you eat it? Would you eat it with mayonnaise on top?
No. I just like the look. Some of those cheap jalapenos they have there too. Oh man, always on point when I'm get a chance to scout any high school talent out there. I gotta get some of the nachos. See, I told you Jeff was gonna drop some nuggets. He already came up with a great idea there about the Jamboree. Appreciate that. Okay, speaking of spring game, this is a nice topic by. How about this from Texas Fight? Texas Fight 210. Sidebar, go Spurs go. I just want y'all to know. He just wants y'all to know, Mavs fans, because I got to dig
him out, Matthew.
Exactly.
Get him out.
He understands.
Something's in the water in Dallas County the last couple of weeks with some of the decisions that have been made by our pro sports teams.
Come on now. Speak on it, Coach. Speak on it. There you go. Hello, Jeff. Ain't you a Mavs fan too? Are you a Mavs fan, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm gonna put something in the water if
we
keep going at this rate.
We got two Mavs fans on now. Oh,
we got our blue one in solidarity. You know,
exactly.
Oh, that's true.
Should be wearing black.
I didn't realize that.
Exactly.
All right, CB had a good question here though. Is there going to be a spring game? I believe there will be, but the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, but is Matt Rule, coach, opened the door to a conversation earlier. This is probably last week when he said he is considering canceling the spring game because he believes tampering has run rampant in college football and that a spring game is just an exhibition of his talent to other schools so that they can poach it in that spring window. That's kind of what he was talking about there, and that's why he is right now pondering canceling the spring game altogether. I want to get everybody's thoughts about this. I don't know if this is where CB was going, but we'll talk about it. We can talk about Texas spring game. I think they will have one. But Coach, I want to get your thoughts because you're a coach. And the tampering thing, there's no doubt about it. It's the most, I don't even know if it's a rule that, I know they can't enforce it, but I don't even know if it's a rule that is enforceable at this point, period, given where we are. So does Matt Rule have a point? Is the spring game just a showcase of his talent to the country and everybody's going to come pluck some of his best talent in his depth?
Yeah, he has a great point. And a lot of schools could use the same reasoning. I don't think Texas is in a place right now where they're in danger of a lot of poaching coming in. But if you're going to do that, you still have the spring game. You just make it, you close it, you don't televise it, and you just have recruits and families there.
Oh.
And, do it that way, kind of back in the COVID days, But, the spring game, let's face it, it's for the fans.
Yeah.
And coaches, they know what all their guys can do. It's for the fans. That's why, Arch threw for 10,000 yards in our last spring game. It was supposed to be that way. All right. It's for entertaining the fans. All right. Nobody wants to come watch a scrimmage where there's 4 first downs and 1 field goal kicked. They don't want to see that. They want to see action. They want to see lots of points scored, and it's as they say, it's kind of like kissing your sister, ain't no victory in it. It's just.
Are you trying to say, Coach, some of those defensive schemes put the defense at a disadvantage in those spring games?
They're not going to show. Yeah, they're not showing. They're not going to show much.
Yeah,
they're just not. And then I think sometimes, like I said last year, I think the offense has a few things dialed up that they haven't told the defense about. Defense hadn't seen them yet because we want the offense to shine because that's what everybody wants to see in the spring game. Unfortunately, it just made us even madder at our secondary after the spring game last year. But, man, did they come back with a vengeance and play well this fall. So, spring game doesn't mean anything, really.
What was it? It was the 2021 spring game, Sark's first spring game where Casey Thompson threw like the behind the back pass in the end zone, and everybody's like, all right, like Sark, we knew you're offensive guru, but let's leave that play out of the playbook forever, right? It's fun things like that. I'm kind of to the point now where coaches everywhere know where good players are. There's just too much footage, whether it be 7-on-7, whether it be high school tape, whether it just be huddle in general. Like, if you got a guy that can play some football, that's going to get out, whether it's spring football television or not. I think it's a little bit of an overreaction. What could I have possibly learned about, I don't know, a kid that I didn't know 2 years ago? I mean, things change, obviously, but I don't think it becomes an over the top thing where you start saying, okay, that this 60 play scrimmage is going to be the reason why school X, Y, or Z starts to recruit second string guy at Nebraska, right? I don't think that's going to be the case. So maybe other coaches get more paranoid, and coaches all the time get a little too worked up on the information that's leaving the program. Is this another example? It probably is in my eyes, but I'd be shocked if it grew into anything else than what we've talked about it as with just Nebraska.
Yeah, I'm a football nerd, so my answer is going to be probably not what the Gen Pop shares, but you go back to Tom Herman's first spring, and I don't remember if it was because of a numbers thing or it was just the way he wanted to do it, but they didn't have a spring game. It was basically a practice, like a normal practice, and then I think they went like a couple series of 1s versus 1s, 2s versus 2s, ended it with some high red zone and then some goal line, and they got out. They're probably about 120, 130 plays somewhere in there. And for me, I actually like that better than the spring game because you just get to see more guys situationally, more guys are running through. I like that more. I know for the fans, they like the actual game aspect of it, and it's easier to follow. But for me, you can take it or leave it. Give me the practice if that's what coaches want to do. I'll play devil's advocate, though. And I completely understand what Matt Rule's saying. And in a day and age where coaches are losing more and more control, this is something they can have control over. So I have no problem with them trying to control what they can control. But if I'm one of those second team guys at Nebraska, and it by the end of the spring, you pretty much know whether you know where you stand on the depth chart. If I'm going into the portal, I'm planning on it. And let's say Big Ten Network was planning on televising the Nebraska spring game. I may want that FCS staff or that G5 staff out there watching the Nebraska spring game because when I go in the portal, I may want them to say, hey, I remember that left guard in the Nebraska spring game. If he's in the portal, let's go pick him up because we need an offensive lineman, or we need an outside linebacker, or we need a receiver, whatever it is. So I think for some guys, Rod, the spring game, I think it almost becomes kind of like how some guys view if you're in the NFL and you know you're on the border or you're probably not making that final cut. It's almost how you'd view the film from that final preseason game where, hey, this may be the one chance I've got once I get cut for somebody to pick me up. So from a devil's advocate standpoint, if I'm the player, I would probably want as much positive tape out there of myself as I can get.
Yep. No, it's a good point there. No, Jeff, I agree with you on that. But who knows? I mean, if one coach does it, then I can see it catching on with other coaches. But even as he said, maybe if it's not necessarily a real substantive issue, I can see other coaches doing it because, like you said, Jeff, hey man, just control. I got control over this. I just want one more thing I can exert control over. But we'll see. So Texas, we don't know when the spring game is, but we haven't heard anything to the contrary. So, CB, when something does break, we'll let you know. All right,
I always think it's funny, though, Rod, like, when we have open periods of practice, they let us put out a little, you can put out a few
snippet
clips. Yeah. And I'll always get somebody. It was during Peach Bowl practice, and I'd taken a video of Cam Williams, or maybe it was Cotton Bowl practice, I forget, but I took a little video of Cam Williams, stretching out. And somebody said, great, Jeff, why don't you just tag the Ohio State staff? Well, being a smart aleck, I actually tagged Ryan Day. I'm like, Sark's not gonna let us see anything he doesn't want out there. Everybody can see Cam Williams stretching. I was like, I'll go ahead and tag Ryan Day, and I did. I tagged Ryan Day in the tweet. So yeah, it's if it's for our eyes, and Coach Shipley knows this, having been behind that burnt orange curtain. If they're letting us in to see anything, there's nothing they're going to put out there that they're going to risk getting out on tape or getting out anywhere that they would deem what's the term I'm looking for? Like proprietary information. Right. Like, hey, we're going to let you watch. And CJ knows the Steve Sarkisian practice at this point. Like, we're going to see stretch. We'll see some special teams on the big field with the O-line. Maybe you see some one-on-ones. And then, hey, you guys go your own way. So, yeah, I'm with Coach, though. If I'm Sark or any other, Power 4 coach especially, if I want to get real good scrimmage work done in the spring, I do it behind closed doors. I just have a closed scrimmage and have a two that just having. I think coaches would get more out of a third close scrimmage than they would out of a spring game anyway.
Probably right, Jeff. It was that same practice, I think, where we only had about 6 minutes to watch to begin with, right? You know, up in Atlanta, we were able to walk to one side of the field, and then it was right on back. And that was right as they started to get into stretching, as they started getting individual work. And to your point, Sark doesn't want you there for that. You're getting out as soon as he says so. So nothing crazy ever comes out from these things, other than who's looking different.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Jose's question here for Coach. How about this for you, Coach? With CJ Baxter coming back from a major knee injury, how did Jordan overcome trusting his knee once again? Did he simply have to go back out to play full speed and let it rip? Good question, actually, Jose.
Yeah, it's a great question, Jose. It takes a while. I actually had knee ACL reconstructive surgery when I was in college, and it takes a while to regain that trust. Being able, the biggest thing is what you'll see is guys that are they're very hesitant about planting a foot in the ground and making a hard turn with that if that's the knee if it's your right knee you had surgery on, planting your right foot and cutting hard to the left. It takes a while to do that, and some people don't ever do it at the same level that they did before. But yeah, it's just so much rehab and the doctors and the trainers, physical therapists, when you're ready, they'll give you the green light, and you just gotta go at your own pace.
Mm-hmm.
Trust it, go at your own pace, listen to your body. But the rehab that they have up there available to them is second to none. So I'm sure CJ's a tough-minded individual that will be able to overcome it.
Hey, Coach, did Jordan ever say it affected his speed or quickness or change of direction? Because most games, a good friend of mine, and he had multiple knee surgeries, and it changed as a player. Still was a great player. Still played in the league for, I don't know, 8, 9 years, whatever he played in the league. But it did change him as a player. You have to change his style of play as a result.
Yeah, in fact, Jordan has said many times that because of that knee injury, it forced him to become a better route runner because he just didn't have that burst that he had before. And so he had to really polish his route running ability and skills and really focus on that.
Yeah.
Because before he could just run by people, then he had to really work on the finer points, and it actually made him a better receiver. And another thing Jordan always said, which is very obvious, he was going against at that time, some of the best DBs in the country anywhere. And so to be able to work your skill against those guys was a great advantage for him.
That's a great point.
Robbie, another one on the injury front, a guy who I think got hurt and really adjusted really well. He was at Texas. Selvin Young pre-knee injury was a different player than Selvin Young post. But I think the Selvin Young after the knee injury was a better running back, whereas the previous Selvin was, I think people forget how fast Selvin was before the injury. Like he was one cut and boom, get up the field and he's gone. But just became, during the rehab process, he got a little bit thicker, reshaped his body a little bit, and I think was a better running back. And he ended up in the NFL. I think he lead all rookies in rushing one year. I think led AFC rookies in rushing one year with Mike Shanahan. So I think Selvin Young's another guy that injured it, had to become a different player, but I think it helped him in some way.
That's a great example. Good stuff there, Jeff. Let's get to this question from JD, because I think it'll lead us into a deeper conversation potentially here. With all the hype surrounding Arch, do you think Texas has found a new gear and can finally start leveraging everything they have to sustain success and go on a run like Bama? All right, run like Bama. And I don't know if you can go on a run. I don't know if anybody ever will go on a run like Bama again. And mostly, JD, is because of the new landscape of college sports. I just think because of transfer portal, NIL, it's just a new landscape here. So if somebody we say that, I said nobody going to run, and then there'll never be another Tom Brady, then Patrick Mahomes comes along. So who knows? All right, and maybe that could be Sark who puts together that run. We hope it is. But what I'll say is the most impressive thing about Bama's run, and we can open this obviously conversation up to the panel, was that And we've seen this now, actually, and open up the conversation to Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, losing the staff. Like just losing your staff. Once you hit a point of success and achievement, everybody's going to try to steal your staff. And that's one of your goals ultimately. And Nick Saban, throughout that dynastic run, he would lose staff for various reasons, guys taking head coaching jobs, sometimes just firing guys, whatever, and still maintain elite level success. And go look at the last 5 national champions. How often do they lose their coordinators, guys? Every time. I mean, Ohio State just lost both of them. Todd Monken left Georgia. Michigan whole damn staff left Michigan. Before that, Sark left Bama. I mean, you go on and on, right? LSU lost Dave Aranda and they lost Joe Brady. You win that national title, there's a really good chance you're going to lose a coordinator or two. To me, one of the most impressive, if not the most impressive thing about Nick Saban's run is that they kept taking his coordinators and Nick Saban kept on winning or just picking other great coordinators. Like, to me, Coach, that really sets him apart. It's kind of what sets Sean McVay apart right now, too, in the league. Like, Sean McVay has had as much turnover as any coach since Bill Walsh. And Bill Walsh built in those great staffs. And yet he is still winning a lot of football games year after year. It's truly him. And I think for Sark, you want to go on a Bama-like run, you got to have that ability. Now, to keep him will be great, but it's going to be hard to keep him once you start winning like that.
One thing Sark has going for him here is that he calls the plays. So
he does. That's true.
Replacing an offensive coordinator might not mean as much. It will. Clearly, that's a big position for your locker room and your huddle. But Sark being the guy that calls the plays, your identity offensively should remain the same. And, Coach, I'll toss it to you because, we talk about turnover. Texas retaining strength coach, special teams coordinator, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. That's something that, look, I wrote about it today on ontexasfootball.com. Not many teams get to do for 5 straight years. When Texas goes into Ohio State, look, they're going to be replacing both coordinators, defensive line coach, I believe. They got some pieces coach that they're going to have to, offensive line and now an outside linebackers coach as well. That's something Texas will not need to worry about, and that continuity should certainly help speed up the process for year 1 guys to year 2, year 2 to year 3, and this freshman bunch coming in with all the same faces that just recruited them.
Yeah, I would like to add this to JD3's question. I say yes. I say we can hit another year now. Arch, hopefully, Arch will not. Don't take this the wrong way, but we'll be at another level quarterback wise because we've added the dual threat impact of what Arch can bring to the game. But you've also got PK, who now apparently is going to let this new coach come in and take over his. So he can do this. Sark doesn't coach a position, but he calls the offense. He can go watch the receivers. He can go watch the running backs. He can go watch the offensive linemen. He can correct things and add input and say, hey, coach, I saw y'all doing this. What about this? Whatever. PK can't really do that unless they're in, a team period, and even at that, he's still got to watch it. Somebody's got to watch his guys, but it's difficult for him as a defensive coordinator because he's worried about all 11 guys and what either worked well or what broke down on a certain play, that they're working on in practice when they're going against the offense. So I think that could lead us to maybe reach another gear defensively too, especially someone that's a pass rush specialist. That's invaluable. So the things we have coming, then you add on that another great recruiting class, and we keep stacking them. Yes, I think we're primed to hit another gear. We can. Can we sustain it? And that's where your comment comes in about the staff. I don't know that many people can do what Nick Saban did, but Sark knows everybody. Sark has proved with the hires that he made. I got to tell you, when PK came in, I'm like, I don't know about this. I didn't know anything about him, and now not only is he leading us to one of the best defensive years we've ever had, he also is not out interviewing for jobs. How awesome is that? And so you've got a hungry staff, a staff that loves the environment that's been created. They're having success. They want to take us to that Alabama level that they've been at. And I think you'll see us hit another gear this year because of those things that I mentioned.
Yeah, I agree with Coach and CJ. Texas can hit another gear. And Coach, I understand what you're saying about quarterback. It's not a knock on anybody. But I think you look at when Mac was building it early on, you went from kind of the Major Applewhite, Chris Sims, that era kind of set the bar for quarterback play. And then VY took it another level. And then Colt took it another level from there. And then when things fell off, that quarterback position was largely responsible for it. And the other thing, and I'm just thinking about Texas, that run of 10-win seasons that Mac had, there was a while there where Mac was hiring really good coaches. I mean, there were very few hires he missed on. Rod, you were in the midst of one of them. You lose Everett Withers, a good secondary coach who goes into the NFL. You replace him with Dwayne Akina, who reinvented DBU. You think of all the running backs coaches that he had. You bring in, Michael Haywood, and then you bring in Ken Rucker. I mean, you're pulling guys from Notre Dame and Georgia and LSU. As great as 08-09 was, and the offense had a lot to do with that. I don't know if you have that edge you had those 2 years without Will Muschamp, and that was another really good hire. People forget, like, that 2007 defense wasn't very good, and Mac went and brought in Will Muschamp, and it really changed the edge that team had on defense. So I think that, to me, is the biggest part of it. And to what you said, Rod, it's about hiring good coaches, but I also think the thing that Nick Saban did, and we talked about this, Rod, and I really think Sark is in a position to maximize Texas the way I don't think anybody's been able to maximize it since Darrell Royal, where you can have more than a decade, 10 to 15 years where you're at, every year everybody expects you to contend for the national championship and you can get there. The other part of that, in addition to making good coaching hires, is reinvent yourself. Go look at Coach Royal, won his first national title in 63. What changed in 69 and 70? The wishbone, right? Go look at how all the ways Nick Saban evolved and reinvented himself during that run at Alabama. It was kind of ground and pound, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and then boom, he brings in Lane Kiffin, and then it's Mike Locksley, and then it's Sark. So by the end, the Alabama offense at the end of Nick Saban's tenure and what it looked like at the beginning, it's two totally different offenses. So I think that's a big part of that. That's why I'm anxious to see Sark as the years progress and as some of these coaches leave and go on to different opportunities. Can you continue to hire good coaches, but can you also, on both sides of the ball, stay on the cutting edge of where you are schematically? There aren't a lot of staffs doing it as good as Texas is right now on both, when you look at both sides of the ball. And then on most years, Jeff Banks is up there on special teams too. So I expect Texas to, in terms of coordinators, play callers, be top 3, top 5 in the country every year with this staff right now. But as guys move on, can you not only just hire good people, but hire good coaches that can take things to the next level?
Yeah, I think what they've done a good job is when they do bring in coaches to the staff, they do siphon different ideas, siphon parts of their football ideology. The defense changed a little bit when they brought in, Scotty Hazelton and, Johnny Manson, right? We saw that. That was an influence that PK is very open to. He's not one of these closed-minded coaches. He's very open and being progressive. We saw the same thing when Gary Patterson came on the staff with PK. So to your point, Jeff, I think it will evolve. They keep bringing in fresh ideas, keep bringing in new minds on the coaching staff, and then being willing to listen to those ideas, because it seems like I'm seeing it come to fruition and materialize on the field that way. And the same thing with Sark, right? The go-go offense with Brendan Marion coming in. There was a little bit of influence there. I think he and Kyle Flood. And maybe the beautiful thing about Sark is maybe he thought about this because he watched Nick Saban's blueprint and his dynastic run. He chose coaches that may not have aspirations to be head coaches anymore. PK has – now, minds change and money can obviously change your mind, and achieving certain things can make you want to achieve more. So yes, I'm open to, PK could change his mind, but PK hasn't really, to coach's point, he hadn't shown any interest taking a head coaching job, and Kyle Flood has already been there and kind of done that. I don't know if Kyle Flood wants to go back there too. So could be a problem that Sark has already had the solution baked into the cake, if you will, for the most part.
I also want to add, it's a great opportunity, as we talked about, I think, last week, with the fact the NCAA is letting you hire more coaches in.
Yep.
Is get those young coach. They don't have to be young, but coaches that are kind of,
innovative. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Riding a bullet, as they say. I mean, they're really coming on. They're innovative. And bring in people, get them in the system, and then when you have an opening, you can move them in there because the players know them. They know the players. They know the scheme. They don't have to teach them anything. You don't miss anything, and then you just reload the magazine with those guys and potentially have you a position replacement. I'm not saying you're going to move a guy that's not considered one of the 9 full-time into a coordinator position, but if you have somebody that's on staff that could move into a defensive coordinator position, because obviously we're not ever going to have an open offensive coordinator position as long as Sark is calling the plays. I just think it's an advantage to bring those guys in and just kind of almost have a farm system for your coaching staff.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I agree with you on that too. That's a great point, Coach. And like you said, there's no limit on it. You bring in as many of those guys as you want to. Old coaches who may want a stopgap in between, career changes or in between stops or in between, coaching stops, or if you want, like you said, that kind of Brendan Marion coach who is a fast riser, probably wasn't going to stay at Texas long, but it's a quid pro quo. You guys much to gain from him as he has to gain from getting that Sark bump or that Texas bump. So
I'll back up what Coach said real quick. You also got to think about your player personnel, your recruiting department. You got some coaches in there. They've got aspirations of getting on the field. So instead of paying him, I don't know what the salary would be. Instead of paying him $50,000 a year to be an assistant to the assistant director of player personnel, mm-hmm. Hey, let me get him a pay bump to stick around, and he can coach slot receivers for a year, or he can be the assistant running backs coach or coach corners or whatever. So, and then you get somebody else into that recruiting department. So there's multiple ways to attack it. Now, I agree with Coach 100%. I like that. The farm system is probably the best way to put it.
All right, good stuff, guys. Let's thank another one of our sponsors, our friends over at South Point Dodge, before we get ready to end today's live stream here on the Winning Drive. Thank you very much to our friends over at South Point Dodge for sponsoring the show and being a part of the Owen, Texas football family. You can always get to the point or score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. Austin's automotive everything. South Point Dodge right now also has a great deal happening with over 50. That's right, over 50 of their Ram 2500s all marked down right now with huge savings. You can go see their inventory for yourself off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go online at southpointdodge.com and you can go check out their inventory there as well. Make it easy on yourself. And obviously, my friends at South Point Dodge, they make it easy for you to get a great deal at South Point Dodge. Like I said, Ram 1500s, 2500s, 3500s, whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. Austin's automotive everything. That's southpointdodge.com. All right, let's I know we're getting close to the end. There were a couple of questions that I wanted to throw out there before we get to the end of our live stream here. Okay, how about this one is from Jack. Says, would Sark ever consider using a third-party play caller to free up time to be the great GM he is? I think he trusts Brandon Harris. That's why he just gave Brandon Harris a raise. So he trusts Brandon Harris, and he's building and constructing. I think he's fine being the CEO and building and constructing this thing as much like an NFL organization as he can with a front office and a GM. If anything, I would look at Sark, who may want help with play calling, not play calling, but just in the preparation for play calling and second half strategy and second half adjustments, more so than help with the CEO side and the roster management and roster building. So I think that's going really well. Right? I don't think Sark needs any help there. If Sark needs any help, to me, it would be in the adjustment and the counters, that the creative counters and anticipating adjustments in the second half of games as the play caller. He's still great. Of course, you get into the Final Four the last 2 years, but that's where you may need help from Sark. I think on the GM side, the CEO side, I think he's got, glowing marks, in my opinion. Rave reviews.
Yeah, the thing I like about Sark too is that when he self-assesses, he admits, hey, he'll go meet with Andy Reid or Bill Belichick or Sean McVay or whoever. He's looking at guys that are doing it the right way, always looking to change things up, and he's not afraid to change things up. Hey, if my halftime plan isn't working, okay, let me go. Maybe I need to go look at NFL third quarter scoring. Who's the best third quarter scoring team in the NFL? All right, let me go meet with that head coach. Hey, what do you do at halftime? How do you streamline things? So yeah, I agree with you 100%, Rod. I'm not worried about the player personnel side at Texas right now. If I'm Sark, it's kind of, and look, we're talking about making, do you need somebody to consult on halftime adjustments? You're dealing with first world problems. It's nice to be talking about these problems and the problems we were talking about, 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah. How about put your phones up and don't text at halftime? That's the kind of problems we used to be dealing with at halftime. Yeah. But again, to answer the question, it's the same thing. If he does that, now he gets back and he opens himself up for having a revolving door coordinator, because if the guy does a great job with the talent he's going to have, he's going to go get a head job. And now Sark's back right where he started, having to go find a new guy every other year or something like that. And I think he's one of the best there is.
Yeah, I think you're getting close to the talent on roster outweighing some coaching malpractice, if you will. I think that's just kind of how close Texas is to that level. And again, I think you trust Sark. You obviously you trust Pete Kwiatkowski with what he's done. But look at what Ohio State's done, right? Was Ryan Day really that incremental to the success of Ohio State this year? I wouldn't necessarily say so. Could they have won it with Chip Kelly being the head coach or Jim Knowles? Maybe. They were the ones calling the plays, but that talent on roster, there was no question coming into the year who was the most talented team in the season. They're going to have 15 or 16 NFL draft picks. Can you get to that level where it's not a debate going into a year if you have the most talented roster? And again, I think Texas is close. Can you get over that hump? It'll negate what might be third quarter woes or red zone just because you have more talent than everybody else.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, good stuff there. All right, guys. Thank you guys for all the super chats and for the questions. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate Stevie Lee coming on with us as well, courtesy of Hard Grove Roofing. Thank you to our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com, and South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com as well. Jeff, really appreciate you coming on to join us for the second half of the show. CJ, thanks for all of the hard work and all of the knowledge. Coach, we appreciate all the wisdom and the levity. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes, twisting and tweaking the dials. Nobody does it better. So thank you to Matthew. He's the real MVP. Tomorrow you'll have Coffee and Football starting at 8 a.m. And you'll also have our Tuesday live stream. It'll be at 7 p.m. Thank you guys for joining us. If I didn't get to some of your questions, guys, I really appreciate it. Oh, we got a super chat here. Sorry about that. Got to super chat before we ended. Jeff super chat says, don't forget about the pay for play plus NIL. 28 million to 34 million for Texas in 2025. Like it or not, it's a big factor. Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. I mean, you have to play that game now. There's no doubt about that, Jeff. I mean, I even think that one day we should kind of break it down, since that is kind of the salary cap, and see how you would spend $20 million on a college football roster. How you would spend it. What positions, tier players, that kind of thing. Because that's basically what the Texas and Ohio States of the world are doing right now. That's their salary cap, pretty much.
Give it all to Arch. Arch gets all of it.
Arch don't need it. Arch wouldn't even take it, man. He'd give it to his O-line. That's how cool Arch is. He'd be like, I'm giving it all to my O-line, man. They can have it all.
That's that discount Tom Brady used to give the Patriots, Rod. That's Arch going to give that NIL discount.
Oh man, yeah, he's got some deals now. Was it Red Bull is one? What's the other one, CJ? He's got a few of them now already.
He's got a lot. Nini's another one. So
yeah, he's
a lot.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, thank you, Jeff. Sorry, I almost missed that super chat there, but thank you guys for all the super chats. Thank you guys for all the questions. Tomorrow you got Coffee and Football at 8 a.m. and you got the live stream starting at 7 p.m. For Jeff, for CJ, for Coach, for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Hook 'em Horns.